All right, so I'm often asked about followers, subscribers, um, um, likes, and uh, I can't think of the other thing, views and all that other stuff. All right. Now I don't know if you hear that, but that's the sound of freedom right there. There's some places, as some of you guys may already know, I travel the country, so there's some places that are better for recording than others. And this one is, to some, would be a noisy and annoying location, but for me, it's the sound of freedom. Those are the Air Force jets that are up in the air. I'm not sure if it's the F-35s or whatever is up there now, but I love listening to every sound of that. If you're on our side and you hear that, that's a welcoming sound. If you're on the other side and you hear that, it's already too late, because most people know the only time you hear a jet is after it's already passed you, and if it's already passed you, it's already dropped its payload, so the chances are you don't get an opportunity to hear that sound. So, all right. Anyway, that's first off. Oh, and the second off is I went and got a haircut yesterday, and I don't know if everybody does this, but when I walk into a barbershop, I kind of like size up everybody. Like, the old 60-year-old guy who has pristine haircut, that guy's been cutting hair for a long time. He probably knows what he's doing. He's the kind of guy that won't listen to you, but as soon as you get in the chair, he'll just start cutting your hair anyway he feels like cutting it. And everyone who gets out of his chair has the same haircut. Anyway, the barbershop was pretty busy yesterday. Didn't get a chance to really like, oh, this one's doing that. Sometimes I go to a barbershop and I'll sit down and I'll wait and I'll watch to see, like, each barber cut like two people's hair, and if they cut really bad, then I'll just leave, or I'll choose my person like that. Like, oh, that wasn't too bad. I'll wait for that person or whatever. Well, anyway, yesterday I didn't have that option. I walked in. As soon as I walked in, there were four barbers sitting down in their own chairs, and they were like, "Oh, I'll take you." I'm like, "Oh." And as soon as I sat down, the lady just went at me like like Edward Scissorhands on the bushes. That's actually pretty funny. She was like cutting all my hair flying all over the place and all that other stuff. And she turned me around when she was done into the mirror, and my hair looked like this. Now, the good thing about my haircut is the difference between a good haircut and a bad haircut is like a week. In a week from now, I'll look like I'll need a haircut and everything will be grown and it won't be a big deal, so I don't really get that bent out of shape. But as soon as she spun me around in the chair and I looked at the mirror, man, I don't know why it makes me so angry, but it instantly angered me. Like, I wanted to get up and like karate chop her in the throat, but I didn't. Of course, I just went, wow, oh, that looks great. Thank you. You did a phenomenal job. Wow, you must be really doing this a long time. You're phenomenal at this. So I got the squeaky chair still going. I got the jets in the air. It's a good day. Good day. So anyway, back to what I was saying. So why do I make these recordings? Obviously, like I was saying, people ask me about, your views and your likes and this. I have four people in my family other than me, in my immediate family. And some of my videos have one view, right? So it just goes to show you that I'm not doing this so I could, be some kind of social media star or any of that kind of garbage, right? So I've had enough people ask me that way I feel like I kind of should break it down a little bit, right? And basically, the reason why I'm doing it is because I don't think that my family, but mostly my kids, know enough about me. You know what I mean? Like, you say stuff to people and they hear what you have to say, and then it goes in one ear and out the other, and years down the road, you'll hear one of your kids or somebody say something, and you're like, yeah, I'm the one who told you that. And they're like, no, you didn't. I never heard you say that. And I'm like, oh, well, whatever. So there's a few things, like for my grandparents, right? Well, all of our grandparents. Back in the day, I don't know whether it was the teens or whatever, they didn't have a whole lot of videos, and they didn't have a lot of, I don't even think a video was created by then. I don't actually know. But they didn't have a whole lot of pictures. They didn't have a whole lot of stuff. So if you're looking into your grandparents' generation now, you may find, a handful of pictures, and, there's people in the pictures that nobody knows who they are unless they wrote it on the back or whatever. And you can't really paint a good story around those things. And, the word of mouth that happens from your grandparents to your parents, to you or to your uncle, to your aunt or whatever, as the years go on, it kind of dies down a little bit, so you don't have like a good understanding on how everyone like what their thought processes were, or things they liked, or things they didn't like. You know, a lot of other stuff. All you had was a couple of pictures to go by. Then came my parents' generation, and my parents' generation, there was videotapes and stuff like that. And you know, you might find, you know, a wedding video or something like that. Maybe a handful of pictures also, whatever. But for the most part, it doesn't really tell a story. It doesn't really, you know, paint a picture or do any of those things. Um, and then you have my generation. Now, my generation was a little bit different. My generation, we had a lot of video, but the video that we had was just mostly special occasions. You'll find, you know, a birthday video, you'll find a wedding video, you'll find, you know, anniversary videos or special vacation videos or that kind of stuff. And all of that stuff is on formats that no longer exist. You know, VHS tapes and DVRs. No, I don't remember what the hell they're called. But anyway, they're on these different things that really you don't have the machines to watch any of that stuff anymore. So you have to, you know, have it transcribed onto something else. My grandfather, in 1981, my mother, my family's from Ireland. My mother was born and raised in Ireland, and so my grandfather died in 1981. 1981 is what? 37 years ago, something like that. Yeah, whatever. 37 years ago, right? So 37 years ago, my grandfather died, which means that my mother had to be around late 30s, early 40s when her father passed away, right? So, you know, we go back to Ireland, we go to the funeral, we do the whole thing, you know, everyone says their goodbyes and all that type of stuff. My grandfather was a great man. One day I should tell a story about that. He had only one eye. He had a patch over his eye, and it turns out that he was in Ireland and he was milking a cow, and he forgot to tie the cow's tail up or something, and the tail whipped him in the eye and knocked his eyeball out. I don't know if that's true or not. I just know the guy wore an eye patch, and sometimes I thought it was really cool, and sometimes it was freaked me out. But anyway, so the man dies in 1981, right? There's really nothing left behind. You know, the guy's born in the teens and all that other stuff, and you know, it's just not much left, right? So years go by, and I don't know if they were cleaning the house or what they were doing, but they found a tape of him speaking, and they wanted to get the tape to my mother. So they get the tape to my mother, and I don't know what kind of tape it was, if it was an 8-track or cassette tape or whatever it was, but somebody transcribed it onto a audio cassette, you know, that you used to put in like the old boom boxes and stuff. So she listens to this audio tape, and this audio tape is her father driving a car, and she's in the back seat. I think she's in the back seat. She might be in the front seat with him, but anyway, she's in the car with him, and she's like 9 years old or 10 years old or something like that. And he's having a conversation with her, and he's asking her questions and asking about the trees they're driving by, and just asking her just, you know, basic questions. The audio is like a minute and a half long, right? And not a whole lot to it, but my mother says that when she heard this audio, it like instantly brought her back to that moment. Like she felt the car, she was in the car, she could smell her dad's cologne, the wind, you know, in the windows with the windows down, she could see the trees in Ireland, like all of that stuff. So she, you know, to this day says it's like one of her most prized possessions, you know. And I thought to myself, you know, my father is from New York City, and you know, my father's a great man. He's done a lot of phenomenal things throughout his life, you know. And he doesn't know a lot about his family. You know, he never really knew his father. You know, his mother is from another country, and then there's like this whole thing. I'm sure he knows a lot of the story, but we don't as his kids. I don't know a whole lot of the story. I just know that, you know, he's from New York City and so on and so forth and all that stuff. And when my father passes away, there won't be any, you know, oh, here's a stack of stuff that, you know, he recorded, and to know about his life and know about his history and know about where his family comes from and some of his memories and how he felt about certain subjects and all that other stuff. So I felt like, you know, what do my kids know about me? What do people know about me? You know, I'm a pretty guarded person. I don't, you know, walk the streets telling people my life and all that other stuff. So I thought, you know, maybe if I recorded some stuff, maybe if I made some audio tapes or maybe some videotapes or whatever, and, you know, put them online, they'll live forever. You know what I mean? Or as long as, you know, the internet and all that other stuff does. And one of the things that I found was very interesting about that is like Howard Stern. And I choose Howard Stern because Howard Stern is one of the guys that's been on the radio for, I don't know, like 35 years or something like that. So Howard Stern's on the radio for 35 years, and his kids, I think they're like in their 30s or something now. So his kids are in their 30s. Every single day of their life, their father was on the radio. Every single day, right? Oh, maybe not Sundays or whatever, but you get the point. So if they wanted to know what their father was talking about when they were 2 years, 9 months, and 5 days old, they can go to that date, pull up the radio, whatever, and listen to their dad. And that will be for the forever. They could be 90 years old. Their father could be 30 years dead and all that other stuff. And they'll still have 35 years of every single day hearing what their father had to say about current events, about anything, And I found that very interesting and intriguing because with today's social media, it seems like it's going that route without anyone really realizing it's going that route. So my generation, there wasn't a whole lot of, social media and stuff like that as we were kids. So there's nothing for my fourth birthday. Maybe there's something for my first. Maybe there's a picture or two or something like that. Maybe like your 16th birthday and your 20th birthday, whatever. But there's not a whole lot of stuff. Now my kids, I think they started getting cell phones when they were like 12. So there's more pictures and there's more videos and there's more everything. Now I have a niece who's 5 years old, and literally since the day she was born, she was like being videotaped every day by her sister, and she was, pictures were being taken, and they were doing all this other stuff, and then Snapchat would come out, and they would make all these filters on the face, and then Facebook, every little single thing that they're doing in their life is being recorded and is being, categorized? No, is being cataloged on their entire life. And I find that so interesting because this person, my niece, if she wants, when she's 25 years old, if she wants to go back and look at some of the stuff that was recorded when she was 2 years old, she could do that. Now, the way things are cataloged right now, there's not dates and all that other stuff, so you kind of have to do a little bit of searching and try to figure it out and do all that other stuff. But for the most part, it's there for the taking. You just got to find it. I think in the future, the things are going to be dated, whether you want them to be or not. They're going to be dated. They're going to be cataloged. They're going to be all of that other stuff. And you'll be able to just go somewhere and type in a date, and it will bring up all the social media posts, all the facial. What do you do when you get like tagged in a picture? So it may not even be a picture or a video or anything that you took. It may be that this 5-year-old girl was tagged in a video in her aunt's wedding in whatever, and just because she was tagged in it on this date, if she goes back to that date and pulls it up, it will have all of this, all this material that she didn't even know existed, So all of that stuff, like, completely intrigues me. Like, they have gravestones now that are electronic, right? So you basically walk up to the gravestone, instead of it saying like, here lies Bob Jones, was a great man, father, son, blah blah blah, from this date to this date. Now there's a screen on it, and it's like a weatherproof screen. You go up and you touch it, and it does like a X amount of minute video of this person and the pictures that were collected about them and videos and where they came from and what their hopes and dreams and aspirations were and what kids were left behind and all that other stuff. And I'm like, holy smokes. Like, it was just a matter of time before it did that. But could you imagine, where I grew up in New York, there was a cemetery. I think it was called like Dead Man's Bluff or something. We called it, or whatever, but that's not what it was. It was obviously a cemetery, but it was an old, rundown, overgrown cemetery, and all the gravestones in there were from like the 1700s, the 1800s, and there was like 100 of them or something that was in there. And could you imagine, like, going back there now, if there were electronic grave sites, and pressing a button and just hearing about the person that was buried there, hearing about what they did in the 17 and 1800s just on a daily basis, whatever. Like, I think that's fascinating. And I think that's incredible. So the reason why I make these videos, for the most part, is just to catalog some of the things, some of the ways I feel about things, and some of the stories, and some of my interests, and some of my disinterests, and some of my misunderstandings, and some of the things that I just say to myself, like, you know what? When you see this video in 20 years, some of the things that I say may not make sense then, but it may not make sense then, and didn't make sense to me now either. You know what I mean? Like the way things run and how things are working and things that are going towards the future. So, in closing, I would say that the more videos that I could put out there, or the more videos, or the more information, or the more audio, or any of that stuff that anybody can put out there, it builds this catalog of people who you may not know who is interested in what you have to say. You may not know if, if it's years from now, or if maybe a grandkid says, like, oh, you know what? My grandfather made some videos when he was when he was younger, and you should see them. They're pretty funny, or they're pretty interesting, or they tell a tale on how things were back in the 2000s and 2018s and all that other stuff. A few years back, one of my sons, we were talking about birth dates and all that other stuff and whatever, and I was born in the late 1900s, and my son says, well, that's basically, I just gave away the punchline, but we were talking about birth dates and all that other stuff, and we were saying, like, wow, it's crazy how there's people that are born now after the year 2000, they won't even know, before that. And my son says to me, Dad, you were born in the 1900s, right? And it felt so old, like the 1900s. But, I was born in the 1900s, and it's a weird concept to me, because I still see myself as young, and I still see myself as, immortal, and I'm going to live for another 70 years and, all that other stuff. But that's not necessarily the case. So, some of the stories about my life on, what we did before the internet. Like, I don't even remember a whole lot of stuff we did before the internet. Look, we must have had like a tremendous amount of time on our hands, because before the internet, like everything revolves around the internet. You go to pay for your coffee, you're doing it on apps and this and that. You're using your phone for a ton of things. You're watching movies and Netflix and all of this stuff, all through this, internet. And there was a time that didn't exist. And if I had videos or I had audio or whatever of me explaining life before the internet existed, I'd be tremendously interested in that, because that's crazy. So for the people that are living now in this day and age of the internet and all this technology and everything, what's it going to be in 10 years from now when you're like, I remember 10 years ago we didn't have that. That just didn't exist. And you're like, wow, that's crazy. How did that not exist? Like one of the things is people driving cars. Like this autonomous car thing is coming so fast and so furious that my grandkids probably will never drive. All the autonomous cars will drive themselves. So my kids will be telling stories to their kids like, oh, you think you have it rough. There used to be a time when there was a steering wheel and there was like two pedals, and you had to press one to go and press the other to stop. You had to pay attention. You had blinkers and windshield wipers, and their kids are going to be like, what? That is crazy. What? Like, I can't even wrap my mind around it, Sort of like trying to tell somebody about a rotary phone. Like they just can't, they can't wrap their mind around it. They don't get it. And it's just crazy. So the reason why I do that is because I want to catalog things that I think are interesting and things that I have to say. I don't care if people watch it. I don't care if I get 100 likes and if people share it and do all that other stuff. I could not care less. I just want something to be there for when the people that I care about, and they say, I just want to hear his voice one more last time, or I just want to see how he looked at a certain subject. So I try to touch individual subjects. You know what I mean? I don't just come on here and yap in my gums. Even though a lot of people say that I don't know how to close a video. As you can see now, I said what I had to say about 15 minutes ago, and now I'm just kind of bumping my gums a little bit more, and I'm not really sure why. So on that note, we will end this video audio thing on... See what I did there? I did a long pause as if I don't know how to finish, but I do. So anyway, we're going to close this video on this audio and just have a better understanding on why I do the videos that I do and how good I am at doing them. All right, thanks. Bye.